Questions ahead of Saturday in Lincoln, including this one. Should Nebraska extend Matt Rhule's contract right now?
You are Locked On Nebraska, your daily Nebraska Cornhuskers podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, and thanks for making Locked On Nebraska your first listen every day. We are free and available wherever you get podcasts and on YouTube, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
All right, welcome. It is Wednesday. Connor Happer, Mitch Sherman with you here on the Locked On Nebraska podcast. What a tantalizing question that Mitch just asked in the cold open there. Should Nebraska extend Matt Rhule now? My answer, of course they should. But there are roadblocks in order to getting to where you can announce something like that this week. And it is
or next week or early in November, anytime. Right. Yeah.
It's building. This week has been anyway. I mean, we talked about it at the beginning of the week. It was sort of, slow. And now, coaches have sort of made the call of like, hey, we need everybody to be loud as possible. It's going to be like this kind of showcase weekend for Nebraska, big recruiting weekend. And so, yeah, if there was ever time to announce that, hey, your coach who you seem to like is staying and he's going to continue to, build up the foundation of the Nebraska football program, now seems like a pretty decent time to do that. But it's not as easy as just that.
Yeah, the question on its face is a very simple one to answer, like you said. If you can extend Matt Rhule, of course you do it. And some would say, and I heard this logic stated to me yesterday as this topic gained some steam in peripheral conversations around the program. Your colleague at 1620, Josh Peterson, reported on his Twitter yesterday that Troy Dannen, the Nebraska athletic director, is working to do this. And I can confirm I have some information that that Dannen has been looking into this, and that in itself is not, and making efforts to try to, I want to play it down, making efforts to try to get a deal done, an extension done. But that in itself is not the headline. The headline is, will Matt Rhule and his agent, will they say yes to this? Rhule is already on record saying he doesn't deal with this stuff during the season. He said that on Pat McAfee a couple of weeks ago. His agent is paid to deal with everything that Matt Rhule doesn't want to deal with whenever the time is right. And it may just be that the time is right to do this now. As I started to say, I had some conversations yesterday, and it was said to me, this is not from inside the program, this is outside the program. It was said to me, what has Rhule done to earn this, to deserve this at this point? He's not yet had a winning regular season. He has not beaten a ranked team. And my answer is, you either play the game that's being played in college football, or you risk getting yourself played. Like, if you are Troy Dannen and you are going to run your program through a certain set of guidelines, and then your coach gets poached, and you end up wondering why that happened. It's other programs out there are working within a different set of guidelines. And Matt Rhule is a candidate at Penn State. We're not going to spend the whole show talking about this because we've worn this out and really nothing has changed. The only thing that potentially could be changing is he might have an offer in front of him to extend his time at Nebraska. And while signing a contract extension does not 100% guarantee that you won't still go looking around a month from now, it's a pretty big gesture in that direction. As close to 100% locking a coach down, as we saw with Curt Cignetti at Indiana, right, as you can get.
Yeah, I'll tell you what he did. This is just how it works. Like, So what he did was he went to Penn State 30 years ago and is good friends with the athletic director at Penn State and is a really good college football coach. Like that's what he did to deserve an extension from Nebraska. Like it is if you, and it's not about like, it's not about what guys are getting paid anymore. And you know, the figure, whatever Matt Rhule does end up getting paid off of the extension is going to be significant.
It's always an if, because if he knows that he wants to leave a month from now, he will not agree to this.
Right. And he could still stay and not do it now, you know, like that.
I think that the door is beginning to creak more toward a closed direction on that.
Right. You have to,
if you have an offer in front of you and you choose not to sign it, that's a fairly solid indication that you have an intention to could still stay.
And there's no doubt people want it, people inside the athletic department and outside alike. They want him to move. They want him to act one way or the other,
to do something.
Yeah, not move to another job, but do something one way or the other. Act.
And this is the right thing for Dannen to do, because if it's without asking Rhule, hey, are you leaving? Without asking him that and getting an answer, he can ask him that. He probably won't get an answer, but you can essentially get an answer by putting a contract extension in front of him, an attractive one that's a legitimate, viable contract extension, and he says yes or no. And you can kick it down the road a little bit, which is why I say it doesn't have to happen this week. Maybe the terms haven't been agreed to. Maybe they're in early in talks. I don't know the progress of any of this, but it can't go too far. It certainly can't go up to that week when Nebraska goes to Penn State on November 22nd.
Keep in mind that you know, because you just hear things that, you know, maybe these you know, when Matt Rhule is immediately identified as a candidate at Penn State, like obviously Nebraska kicks into gear and they start working on, okay, what do we have to do to keep him? So this has been
that's just the standard stuff.
Yeah, this has been a weeks long conversation. So there is the functional part about doing a contract extension, which, like we've talked about for the last 7 minutes, it theoretically keeps your coach in town and, you know, signifies this new buy-in and like a path forward. Like, you know, it's a rebirth almost in a sort of way. There is also the optical part of this, which is, you know, capitalizing off of the announcement whenever it comes and making sure that is the exact right time for the football team that plays in the field, the state, and all those things. You know, like that's also what extensions are for. They're for optics, and they're to say, like I said, you know, it's this rebirth and new path forward. And so, you know, you want to make sure that that's going to hit right when you do that. And basically the question we're asking is right now the time?
Is this
where
the
it hit
time?
Right? Yeah.
This is the from an optical standpoint, the perfect situation would have been for Matt Rhule to emerge as a candidate when he did 2 weeks ago Sunday, for Nebraska to go to Minnesota, play well, win that game, come home, play well, beat Northwestern, have a perfect 4-0 October going into a game against USC where it's ranked and 7-1, and NBC is here for Saturday Night Football, and then bam, you drop that big announcement on Thursday or Friday of game week with 50 recruits coming into town, November on the horizon. You make a big splash. We have seen Nebraska attempt to do this kind of stuff before with a contract extension. Scott Frost got one of those. You remember that early in his time at Nebraska on the eve of a big game. And they have done it with facility announcements. They did it with the announcement of the Osborne complex that now houses the football program, announcing that, I believe, with College Game Day in town ahead of an Ohio State game. So you had Wandale Robinson up there on a giant makeshift stage where the building now sits. So this is how it's drawn up. If you go over to Anderson Hall and talk to them about public relations and advertising and such, like they'll nod their head and say perfect time to do it. So, but yeah, you have to agree to it. You got to have a coach who's ready and his agent who are ready to say yes. perhaps the number that is making it hanging in the balance is this liquidated damages piece. That's the first place that my eyes would go to in this contract if we in fact see it, is what are the liquidated damages. And that's not the buyout. The buyout is the remaining term left on the contract that the coach is owed if he's fired. The liquidated damages are what he has to pay, or his new school would have to pay if he chooses to leave. And right now in 2025, that is $5 million. If Matt Rhule were to sign a contract extension and that number went down or that number stayed the same, then you kind of have to scratch your head and go, okay, what kind of negotiating was going on here? And did you really just lock this guy up? But if that number goes up, then as a Nebraska person who wants to keep your coach, you feel good.
Yeah, no doubt about it. So there's a lot of stuff that's at play here. Like I said too, we heard from Rhule a couple weeks ago about what Nebraska needs and some of the things. Like, I wonder if there is further progress in that category as far as getting more funds to deal with for your program or whatever it might be, more money sort of pledged your way. Like, might Matt Rhule need that before this thing goes any further? So yeah, I think there's a bunch of dynamics at play. Obviously, this one is a little bit different than any other extension that you've had. Like, you just mentioned Frost. Like, nobody was courting Frost at the moment. Penn State may be courting Matt Rhule at this moment. So like, there's a timer on this. And that's what makes it a little bit different than just your regular old contract extension, which says, we like you, please stay. This one says, we like you, please stay. And also, don't go anywhere else.
Please stay and don't go anywhere else.
Yeah.
All right. Keep your eyes open. Maybe something happens soon. Maybe not. Whether it does or not will, I think, set the tone for how the month of November plays out for Nebraska in this area. This is this situation at Nebraska is not happening in a vacuum. Like, all over college football, there are coaching conversations. Just look at the carousel and the way that it's already spinning, and the coaches who have lost their jobs, including James Franklin at Penn State. And you can see why so many coaches are drawn into this conversation. And as Rhule said at the beginning, if you are one of those coaches who's drawn in this kind of a way, or how Lane Kiffin is, then that means that something good must be happening in your program. All right. When we come back, we're going to get back to the Nebraska USC game at hand, and we'll ask this question: is the bottom set to fall out of the Huskers' no-fly zone?
Wow.
That is next. But right now, this is Mazda. This is you, Connor. You got something to say about Mazda?
I do. I love Mazda. First of all, Mazda crafts cars for those who do more than simply move. You can check out the Mazda lineup of vehicles for a fit that will work for you. Mazda delivers confidence with every ride. It has more IIHS Top Safety Pick Plus awards than any other company. From footwork to breathwork, athletes, they sweat all the details, and Mazda brings this same intention to how they craft every single model. You can feel the Japanese craftsmanship in every detail, from the metallic accents to available Napa leather upholstery. You can make everyday drives feel like anything but, with smooth handling and intuitive controls. It's easy to enjoy your time behind the wheel of a Mazda. And with all-wheel drive standard in every crossover SUV, you'll drive with confidence through almost every season. As you look outside right now, you might start to need that soon. Like the athletes you watch, Mazda sweats every detail, because when you make every move count, impossible becomes irrelevant. Mazda, move and be moved.
Welcome back. Quick correction from the pod on Tuesday. We were talking about the loudest games we could remember at Memorial Stadium. Some conversation about Miami in 2014, about Colorado last year. I mentioned the Texas 2006 game and how it was getting dark at the end of that game, and the snow started to fall when Terrence Nunn fumbled, and then Ryan Bailey kicked the chip shot through the uprights to beat Nebraska. That was, in fact, one of the loudest games at Memorial Stadium in the last 25 years ever, I would say. That That was an 11 a.m. kick. It was brought to my attention by Michael Severe yesterday. And I remember it as a 2:30 kick.
Because I remember the snow, I remember the snow starting to fall basically as the game was coming to its conclusion. And if it would have been a 2:30 game, it would have been dark. And I remember it was not dark.
See, I remember it getting dark. Like I remember, and that's just like something that is that my brain has it's lied to me as this thing has developed over the years, or the direct memory has faded. I remember it getting dark. Well, it may have gotten kind of dark because the clouds were rolling in and the snow started to fall, but it wasn't dark as in like sunset dark.
We ought to hire Michael as our fact checker.
We don't need to hire him.
We can get free work. Thank you, Michael. I appreciate that.
So Michael and I had a little conversation about the 2006 Texas game, and he agreed with me about the decibel level at that game. I think that we've glossed over a little bit in talking about how it's been a long time since Memorial Stadium has had this kind of a great environment for a conference game. And we start talking about Big 12 games, and we're missing just a little bit of the early Big 10 era in the Pelini coached games, like Ohio State in 2011, which was the first Big 10 home game ever for Nebraska when the Huskies came back from a big deficit. Yeah, it wasn't November. Michigan and Penn State in 2012 also were earlier in the season games. But yeah, they've ramped it up with intensity in some October games. But maybe we were only referencing November being lacking the attitude.
The lead up though to the Ohio State game in 2011 was not
big loss at Wisconsin.
Nebraska was coming off of a bludgeoning at Wisconsin. Ohio State was under sanctions, and they had an interim coach who was Luke Fickell, by the way. And they had what was his name? Braxton Miller got hurt in the game and all that stuff. Like, it was a great comeback. It was the best comeback in school history, but there was no like juice to play Ohio State. Certainly none, close to what it would be at the time if you're bringing a team like that in.
You know who the Buckeyes coach was that day? Of course you do.
Luke Fickell.
It was Luke Fickell. It all comes full circle. That was the Joe Bowserman game, or maybe the Levante David game or the Rex Burkhead game. But it was loud. It was loud in the stadium for sure on that Saturday in 2011.
And then Bo Pelini was mad at some fans for leaving and was maybe recorded on an audio tape secretly. Yeah.
What a time. Enjoy that. You beat Ohio State, man. Okay. Is the bottom set to fall out of Nebraska's no-fly zone? So a couple of stats here. Nebraska's recorded 12 sacks this year. There are only 8 teams in the Power 4, somehow including Georgia, that have recorded fewer than 12 sacks this season. But Nebraska's pass defense in yards allowed per game is second nationally. It's second in yards per attempt, 5.0, and it's first in touchdown passes allowed with just 3. So how does all of this compute? Just 12 sacks, but they're great in the numbers that matter for controlling an opponent's passing offense. Jaden Maeva could be the guy to blow this up. I think Nebraska has to get pressure on him, and not just pressure, but hit him. Otherwise, USC could lay waste to those numbers as we look at the national stats.
Yeah, like we've talked about this all year. Nebraska currently has the second rated pass defense in the country. They have dropped from
yards per game,
by the way. Yeah. In yards per game. Obviously it's still very good, and there is a lot of trust in those defensive backs. USC will come to town with the number 1 passing offense in the country. They're dynamic and explosive everywhere. They're balanced and with the run game as well, so they can hurt you by surprise. Like, I just look at it in a game by game way. Like, I thought Nebraska, and keep also in mind you're grading on a curve because of the quarterback that you're playing against. Like this past week, Nebraska, the quarterback that they played was horrible, but they did a really nice job. Minnesota game, I mean, Nebraska only gave up 153 yards, which is good, which is right at their average, but they were horrible in pass defense. I mean, they were horrible all across the defensive side in general, allowing 16 of 20 passes. in that game. Their biggest game that they've given up this year through the air was 249 against Maryland. They completed 73% of their passes, but it's not like I thought that they were so it's not going to be like a total yards thing. This comes down to it's, can Nebraska go out and make a couple plays on defense, knock some big pass plays out, make sure they don't get super duper explosive. Like, so I actually don't like, I think they'll be okay. USC will pass for its yards because that's what they do. But I think Nebraska's going to hold up. Like, it's not going to look like a JV defense all of a sudden.
Nebraska's allowed 5 rushing plays of 40 yards plus, which is 126th in the country. And some of that explains why the pass defense numbers look like they do without big sacks. 3 touchdown passes. Well, opponents haven't had to throw touchdown passes against Nebraska, and the Huskers are 6-2, but they haven't had to throw touchdown passes against Nebraska to keep games close because they've been able to run the ball and get explosives running the ball. I don't think this is about like this discrepancy in the numbers is about the fact that Nebraska has played bad quarterbacks, because it hasn't. Nebraska played Brendan Sorsby. He's a good quarterback. I mean, Bryce Underwood, good quarterback. Malik Washington, good quarterback. Aiden Childs, when he played Nebraska, I think he was a good quarterback. Like, he's dangerous. He
was just hurt for the majority of that game. Like, right. Like, true. It's not exclusively because that they've played bad quarterbacks. They've made good quarterbacks look bad at times. So I think it's
just throw out the Sorsby thing. Like, Cincinnati's 7-1, and he had a terrible game against Nebraska, but a lot of that had to do with Nebraska's defense.
So I think regardless of what they give up in this game, it's like they're going to be fine, right? Nebraska has a good pass defense because they have good players in the secondary and guys who can cover, which they desperately need because God knows they need all the help that they could get up front. So I think they'll hold up just fine regardless of sort of what they give up in the game.
Yeah. All right. So to answer the question,
no,
maybe the bottom will not fly out.
That's what I think. What do you think
of Nebraska's no-fly zone? Well, I don't think that USC is going to throw the ball all over the yard against Nebraska on Saturday night, and I have a reason that I think that. And maybe we should take a break and then come back and talk about that as the temperature plummets around eastern Nebraska. That's next. All right, now I've got a message to read for you. This is from Peloton, because Peloton is shaping the future of fitness with its brand new Peloton cross-training Tread Plus, powered by Peloton IQ. This is their most advanced equipment yet, designed to give you real-time guidance and endless ways to move, whether you are running, lifting, cross-training, doing whatever you do with your favorite instructors. This is training reimagined. Peloton is built for breakthroughs with tools to help you plan, stay motivated, and reach peak performance. They've got the Peloton IQ system. As I mentioned, it offers real-time strength coach training. It allows you to track your reps, suggests the right weights for you to use, corrects your form, makes every rep safer and smarter. And the swivel screen is a game changer. You can go from running on the Tread Plus to strength training without missing a beat. They've got personalized class recommendations to keep you engaged. Tailor your workouts to your vibe and your energy level each week. So let yourself run, lift, flex, and push forward. Explore the new Peloton cross-training Tread Plus today at onepeloton.com.
All right, welcome back. Connor Hamper, Mitch Sherman with you. Don't forget to get your questions in for the mailbag. Still do that on Friday. And, of course, a lot to develop throughout the remainder of the week. It is going to be November on Saturday, and so we are going to talk about weather, especially as it pertains to one of those soft-ass West Coast teams coming into town, not being prepared for the Big Ten football weather.
Pansies.
So, yeah, it just so happened that we got a tweet right before we started recording today from our good friend Travis Kleneski in Central Nebraska doing the
he's our friend? Is that right?
He tweeted at both of us, so we're going to take it.
Really?
He's our friend, and
I love Travis.
Sent us.
Not sure we've ever met.
But he sent us the weather forecast for Saturday night. We're looking at 40. This is from Travis. 47 at kickoff with light winds. Halftime 44, and then as we get into the fourth quarter, we're going to be dipping into the 30s a little bit on Saturday night.
How did he know that we were going to talk about this today?
Dude, he sends out his weather report, his Husker weather report every week, and then tags a bunch of people, but it just so happened that it worked out for us today. I think
it's perfect. So, yeah, not favorable weather for USC. I went and tried to do some research on Tuesday about USC in cold weather games, like maybe what was the coldest game that USC had ever played in. And this won't be it because they played Army in West Point back in some olden days. And in the modern era, it looks like a lot of USC's coldest games are at Washington in Pac-12 days. But those generally are like rainy, wet, just like raw days that games that they've had at Husky Stadium. So there is actually a stat, this is from 15 years ago, that USC on the cusp of playing a cold game at Colorado. Must have been a non-conference game because the Buffs were not in were the Buffs in the Pac-12 in 2011? They might have left to go to the Pac-12 at the same time Nebraska left to go to the Big Ten. Or was it a year after? Anyway, USC was playing in Boulder in 2011, and it probably was a conference game because it was later in the year if it was cold. And there's a piece of information here that says USC is 7-6-1 all time in cold games. Quote, cold games. This is like some imaginary criteria. Basically, if it was mentioned at any point in the report about the game that it was cold, then they count it as a cold game. So it's not like a temperature. And cold to USC might be different than cold to Oregon or Colorado or Notre Dame or something like that. So it could be like 50 degrees in South Bend where USC plays every other year, and the people under the Golden Dome like have their shirts off, which is a thing to do in college football now. And USC is over there shivering on the sideline. So I don't really know, but the takeaway is that they struggle in cold weather games.
Okay, so this is maybe the most Midwestern thing I'll ever say on the show. It's, as we know, it's not so much the cold, it's the wind. It's really the wind that gets you. And so if there is some wind that kicks up on Saturday night, that's when I'll start worrying about this. But no, like this is going to be a nice crisp fall night. It'll be a little bit chilly, of course, but I think USC can. I think USC can handle it. I
think not just the wind. It is the wind, and that's a great Midwestern thing to say. It's also the moisture in the air, right, Travis? Like if you get just a little touch of it, a little mist that's coming down, all of a sudden your body just starts shivering uncontrollably. Now it probably doesn't if you're in a football uniform and you're running around on the field and you have heaters, which USC will certainly get the use of on its sideline on Saturday night. But yeah, for sitting in the stands, if it starts raining, and I don't believe that rain's in the forecast, but there have been some days recently here where rain hasn't been in the forecast, and all of a sudden it starts misting at like 7:00 at night. So I sat outside one of those nights last Friday at a high school football game. So I think like there's a formula somewhere inside all of this, like every degree below 60 or 50 maybe that it dips. That's another point that USC is unable to score. So it's a 10-point advantage for Nebraska if the temperature is 40 degrees at any point in the game.
That's awesome. Great formula. I subscribe 100% to this. Yeah, I like I'm just doing a quick look at. So this is their second year in the Big Ten, obviously, and they're going to try to not make these West Coast teams go to the Midwest or somewhere cold in November. But at some point,
why?
At some point they're going to run into something bad. Why is a great question. They should make them feel every.
I mean, UCLA should be playing at Minnesota on Thanksgiving. I know that they play Wisconsin that weekend every year, but why not?
I don't know if the punishment would fit the crime there, but That would be that'd be a little bit different. But yeah, you get a little bit of a taste of it. USC coming to Nebraska at least it is November. It's November 1st, and we might be dipping into the 30s just ever so slightly on Saturday night.
Yeah. The guys like Isaiah Hunter and Sierra Wright from California, it's also going to be cold for them, but
be okay.
Sierra Wright's been a part of some cold games at Nebraska because he's been here for 1 year. You can't say that with Isaiah Hunter, but it's we kind of make light of this, but it could be a factor. It actually could be a factor. Dana Holgorsen came into the media room on Tuesday smiling because he had just come out of the cold, and Nebraska was able to practice on its nice new grass fields, which hold up very well in the cold and the rain that was falling on Tuesday. And he was like, yeah, bring it. Like, let's play in the cold. I mean, Nebraska's offense, USC's offense might be designed to operate better in the cold than Nebraska's, especially with the matchup against Nebraska's defense. Like, if the Trojans, you be careful what you wish for. Like, if you're like, I want USC to just have to run the ball all night. Oh, okay. They might run it for 300 yards. They're capable of doing that. Nebraska's defense is capable of allowing that.
Yeah. The one I was looking at our other West Coast brethren. So did you know that UCLA goes to Ohio State on November 15th? So that
could be cold.
Yeah, that's the other one. Like I said, they all kind of play each other at the end of the year, so they don't have to go very far in November. Mm-hmm. But that's your other outlier. UCLA goes to Ohio State in 2 weeks.
You just don't know. I mean, Columbus, Ohio on November 15th. It could be snowing. It could be 24 degrees.
We've had some Black Fridays around here where the kickoff temperature was like 68 degrees. And I'm like, what's going? And then we've had some of the coldest days that I could possibly remember when Nebraska was playing Iowa or Colorado. So yeah, you never really know.
As a Midwestern guy, I want to know how you feel about that. If you wake up on Thanksgiving and it's 64 degrees, are you happy? How do you feel? Especially let's say Black Friday, not Thanksgiving, because Thanksgiving's a different story. I kind of would prefer it to be nice, so I can step out of the house after eating way more food than I should eat. It's great to be able to go on a walk around the block, which is hard to do if it's 12 degrees and snowing. But Black Friday, do you want it to be 60 degrees?
I take the attitude of taking every single halfway decent weather day we can get post like November 15th, like the middle of November. I'm basically all the way until the end of like the middle of April. I am just counting down all of the days and baking in that all of them are going to be horrible weather in my head. And so anything that is like not horrible, I'll take. And so my answer to your question is absolutely. Yes. I love
Matt Rhule agrees to a contract extension. And in 2028, Nebraska is hosting a college football playoff first round game. And Miami comes to Lincoln on December 21st. Would you be amused if it was? Would you prefer that it be 62 degrees, crazy unseasonable warmth, or what about zero?
It would be mildly disappointing at that point. I agree. Yeah, that would be disappointing because you want Miami to feel the pain that you have to live in for 6 months out of the year. But yeah, you take all the good. If it's a non-Husker football game day, I would love to go outside and take a walk at any time in January.
All right. In the 2 minutes that remain, anything hit you from Tuesday with Holgorsen, Butler, Raiola, Spindler? We got Deshaun Singleton, Sierra Wright. What any highlights that stood out to you?
Yeah, I mean, John Butler kind of getting emotional a little bit on
about Sierra Wright
relationship with Sierra Wright, which was pretty cool. Very not John Butler, or at least not what we see of John Butler. So
it's John Butler 2.0. We've come to know him. Yeah, it's
been Sierra Wright week, which is well deserved for Sierra Wright.
Yep, Sierra came and spoke about his adaptation going from LA to Lincoln, and just how life has thrown this unexpected change at him, and man, he's embraced it and has turned into a great leader for Nebraska, as Matt Rhule has detailed, and John Butler backed up. Holgorsen dropped this on us, and I didn't realize this because I haven't researched it enough, but he coached in a night game at Nebraska in 2001 as the inside receivers coach for Mike Leach at Texas Tech. This is with Cliff Kingsbury as the quarterback, Wes Welker at wide receiver. I remember this game, 41-31. Nebraska beat Texas Tech. This was 1 week before the Black Flash 41 reverse win against 1-2 win against Oklahoma for Nebraska.
Heisman, kind of a trap
Heisman
game
year.
Yeah.
Kind of Dana was there. It was a night game. Yeah. The only other night game he's attended at Memorial Stadium was that memorable Akron game this year. So this will be something somewhat new for him to be out in the blackout on Saturday.
Cliff Kingsbury threw the ball 63 times in mid to late October that night, and only one of those passes was touchdowns. But he threw for 353 yards, 33 for 63. 353 yards and a touchdown and a pick for Cliff Kingsbury, the Texas Tech quarterback.
That's a normal day. That's a normal day for the Leach offense.
Would have liked a little higher of a completion percentage probably, but yeah.
Last thing before we go. So Dylan Raiola talked about the opportunity to have a makeup for Michigan, that this game is a makeup. Like Nebraska got a do-over last week with Northwestern because it was a very similar setup to what the Huskers had at Minnesota. Like-minded team that Nebraska did not perform well against the week before, and he thinks that, or he said that, like, you rarely get a chance to do something over in college football, and now you have a ranked team coming into Memorial Stadium. It reminds him of the opportunity that Nebraska let get away in week 4 against Michigan.
Yeah, I think it's a good way to look at it. I mean, you could look at last week's game against Northwestern as sort of a do-over for Minnesota too, although you don't get to take away the loss, right? But that
was his point.
That is absolutely a good way to sort of view it. And so I'm sure there's a lot of stuff that they wish they could have had back against both Michigan and Minnesota. And, that's what the next game is for. So, we'll roll the ball out there, see what happens on Saturday night.
All right, let's get out of here. Thanks for making Locked On Nebraska your first listen today. For your second listen, check out Locked On Big Ten. Craig is there breaking down the most exciting conference in college sports. You can find Locked On Big Ten on YouTube or wherever you listen to podcasts. It's part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.